Alright, so hey guys, it's Beyond Sight. Yesterday, I looked on the internet for accessible voice recorders for the blind and visually impaired. One is not very good. The other is good, but it's a bit pricey. There's a third one that I just looked up today on YouTube, and it's Vivo 10. It's a voice recorder, but the owner of the recorder is Technology for Blind, who has reviewed it. It has a lot of features. But let's start with the first recorder that I looked at on the internet. The first one that I looked up was the Electronics 12 Pro, which is a feature-rich voice recorder and includes an already turned-on voice guide that gives you access to all the recorder because it's made for blind and visually impaired users. It's even used for the sighted if they want it. Now, they say if you mess up, like turning off the sound or whatever, you can turn off the recorder and turn it back on as a sort of reboot, and voice guide will turn back on. That's the name of the screen reader on the recorder. It's not technically a screen reader, but you know what I mean. There are options such as an FM radio and maybe a couple of other features. No Wi-Fi connectivity, though. I wish there was. But the third one that I just mentioned, the Vivo 10, that has Wi-Fi connectivity. And that, in my book, if you were to find this recorder, it would probably cost around $300 or maybe even $400. I don't know that for sure, since I haven't found a link for it. For those who want to help me find a link, it's spelled capital V, capital I, capital V, capital O, space 10, as in the number 10, 10, and you can just look up voice recorder. You can put that at the end. And if you find a link for it, let me know. If you know me privately, let me know via text message or Skype. If for those who know me on Skype, look it up. Like Kane, Max, Garrett, and Oscar, all of them. But anyways, I'm gonna continue. So the Electronics 12 Pro, I've been able to look up. There are a few things. One is, the way to turn it on is you have to press and hold the play button, which is kind of weird. The voice that it uses is Microsoft Zira. 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 And you can find this voice on a Windows 10 PC near you. I'm not kidding. You can find it. It's got an impressive 12 gigabytes of storage, and it's completely accessible. It's got a MP3 mode where you can, I guess, play a bunch of music. You can play music, audiobooks. It's made for that type of stuff. It's completely accessible. There's no problem when it comes to navigating for those who have blindness. And there is a hearing aid option, although it's not what I thought it was. You can hear the recording, I believe, as it goes on. But isn't that already a feature? Yes, it is, on some recorders. It's called monitoring the recording. You can monitor a recording when plugging in either a headset or an external speaker into the headphone jack on an existing voice recorder. The voice recorder that I got now is an Olympus DM720, and that's what I recorded my last video with, surprisingly. Now, that video was taken about maybe a couple of weeks ago. The recording was done a couple of weeks ago. I just used Voice Plus to turn that video, recording it to a video and upload it to YouTube for you guys to listen to. So, yeah. But the Olympus DM720 is good for some things, not for all. It does have a calendar search. Nope, can't access that. It has memory information. Can't access that. It has system information. Can't access that. It has property and the file options. Can't access that. Other than that, the rest should be blind user friendly. You don't need accessibility on the recordings list because you should be able to figure it out on your own. Now, before I got the DM720, I had an Olympus. I believe it was the WS. And for those that are blind, and I've heard a video about said voice recorder, let me go ahead and put this down, facing down, rather. I'm going to lift this up, it's not bad. I'm going to lift that up. And then I gotta hand it to my dad, who probably is watching this right now. Who would probably be watching this. There we go. I gotta hand it to my dad. He knows exactly what to find, when to find it. I guess. I don't know. But the case that I had the DM720 in is really meant for this thing right here. It is a small digital voice recorder made by Olympus. It's got a simple power on and off. However, the batteries are dead in it, and this does not have a rechargeable battery. Instead, opening the battery cover. Look at the batteries. They're 2 AAA batteries. Here's the cover. Oh, there we go. So, look at the front of the device. Every one of the buttons is on the device. There's no menu button. It's a very basic voice recorder. Therefore, there is a backlight, but there is no voice guidance, which I'm very disappointed about. But I learned to navigate the recorder regardless. There's a dedicated folder button, and when pressing it, you can actually get the folders. You can, pressing it once will beep once, pressing it twice, it'll beep. Pressing it another time, it'll beep twice. Pressing it a third time will make it beep 3 times, and pressing it a 4th time will make it beep 4 times. Very blind user friendly. Very friendly. I don't know how to describe this. Very good for those that want a very simple, basic voice recorder. Now, the very basic voice recorders I can access and use. Now, Olympus made a very basic voice recorder back in the early days of their, recorders. Olympus also made MP3 players. There are 2 ports on this specific voice recorder, one being a headphone jack, one being a microphone jack. Which one's which, I have no idea. But there's 1 microphone and 1 speaker. The screen is the only thing on the top. And this recorder was bought in 2016. Now I need to actually see if someone can actually help me with the file thing, because there's something wrong with the file situation, because now it plays recordings and you have to stop it to switch to another recording. There are other voice recorders that I've had in the past. But we're not going to go through those. I know how to do the basics of a non-accessible voice recorder. Now, the Olympus DM720, it has an accessible clock right out of the box. Now, what I mean by that is, no, it doesn't display the time. And hang on. No, it does not say the time and date. But it's accessible to the point where you can set the time and date yourself. And I can do that. It has more features. But there are some Olympus voice recorders that you can actually connect to Wi-Fi, which is pretty cool for probably a few different things of file sharing. This voice recorder, I believe, was made in 2016. If I'm wrong, let me know about that. But some of the buttons are tactile, or, worth noting. Not all of the buttons are tactile, and that's okay. It doesn't need to be. Enough of the buttons are tactile to know which one is which, but the back and erase buttons are hard. Unless you know the location of the erase and back buttons, you're sunk, because you are not going to know which button's which. There are 2 or 3 different microphones on this specific Olympus recorder. But yeah, it's small and compact. I've seen a Philips voice recorder. And no, it does not have any sort of screen reader. But it does have dictation software, and it's very expensive. Probably at around $100. I don't know. But back to the recorders that I looked up. There was a second voice recorder called Microspeak, and it's probably worse because it doesn't have that many features. It doesn't have that many features. It just doesn't. It's $140 cheaper than the Electronics or whatever, Electronics 12 Pro, whatever that the recorder's called. But it's a $60 voice recorder, and again, it's accessible for blind and low vision users, or people with visual impairments. It may have an options menu, but I don't know how to navigate it. I don't know how to navigate it. I don't know for sure if it does. I don't have it in hand, but someone I talked to on Skype actually had it, and it was terrible, they said. The speech was terrible, so I wouldn't recommend it. But it does have support for MP3 files. It's just, very inconvenient. Now, there's a third voice recorder that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. I'm going to make sure I'm...
Speech mode. Stop. Tape pick. Stop. Bottom of screen. Stop. Speech off.
There we go. Still recording. So there was I can't talk anymore. Someone has to fill. I'm kidding. There was a voice recorder that I looked up on the internet. It was on YouTube. An entire, almost 50-minute video that I thought was completely exciting, but it's probably real expensive if you find it. Real expensive. It has a calculator, compass, voice memos, voice reminders, alarms. Wi-Fi. It has a lot of stuff. A lot. You can even update the recorder on the recorder itself. Like on a iPhone, Android device, iPod Touch, computer, tablet. But yeah, that would be pretty cool. Now, the electronics, whatever the heck it is called, I'm not sure how to really pronounce it, but the electronics voice recorder, you can update it too. But you have to do it from the computer. What you have to do is you have to download the file for it. You have to download the update file. Then you have to put the file in the root directory of the voice recorder. Go to software update on the recorder itself, or whatever the update firmware option is, and then choose the firmware from there. Now, a simple note, you have to back up your recordings because anything could happen. Now, the recorder's got 12 gigabytes of internal storage. That's much more than what I've had in the past, which was 4 gigabytes, 2 gigabytes of storage. But for $200, you get a lot. On the Olympus recorders, you don't even get a firmware update. I looked it up to see if you could actually update the firmware, and you can't. And now, voice guidance on the Olympus. It may help with navigating most of the recorder, but it's not a truly satisfying voice recorder for the blind and visually impaired. For blind people or visually impaired people, it's just not suitable. Now, it does have a contrast mode, which actually, it doesn't magnify anything. I think it just does something, I forgot, like inverts colors or something, I don't know. It has a backlight for those visually impaired people who actually want a backlight. I have it on because I just wanted a backlight. Well, there we go. That's kind of the end of my video. It's Beyond Sight, and I'm out. See you guys later.